I was trying to get it going on the laptop, but I've had to fire this up on the phone. So apologies. Um, so yeah, so this evening, look, I was thinking of recording this, um, just to, I was going to pre-record it basically, and talk about how we can get the most out of the training sessions. Be it as a player, as a coach, or whatever. And I was just like, do you know what? It's probably just easier for everyone to do it, live. So just give me 1 second now, and I'm going to try and see how this works. So I've never done this on my phone. So I'm trying to see how I can get the chat up on this. If not, I may just need to. No, I don't want to hide the chat. So show all. Or maybe there is a chat and I just can't see it. So, but yeah. So there we go. It's a bit better. A bit better for me anyway. Anyway, so to start off, obviously, we've got our warm-ups and that, and we went through that in depth with Wes the last day. Sorry, no, just one. Sorry, unmuted there, guys. Thanks a million. Sorry. I said this mobile setup is not what I'm used to. But anyway, sorry, just to kind of quickly go through it there. So I was just saying that, like, not going to do the warm up, because like we went through really in depth with Wes the last day about that ramp protocol and how to get the body ready and primed to play. So then I was basically just starting to say that, like, really we want to be setting goals. So, and it might be for a training session, for a week, for a month, for the year, but like player and team goals, not just like, okay, well, what do we want to win at the end of the year, but it's like, okay, well, what position do we want to be in that allows us to win that? So if we want to win, okay, well, last year our batting let us down, or our throws were a little bit unreliable, so the goals we're going to set is specific to that, and it just allows us to put ourselves in that position to achieve that end goal. So basically what we want to be doing is introducing a skill. So like at the start of a session, okay, we're going to work on catching, and we're really going to focus on low balls being hit at us, because like there's a lot of times we had a ball say like kind of between the hip and the ground, and we were in position to catch it and we weren't able to. We were grand when the ball was up in the air, but those lower ones we really struggled with. So it's like, here's the skill that we're going to work on, and then teach the proper form, how exactly we want them to do it. Oh God, it has started already. Yes, 6-7, 6-7, 6-7, lovely. So yeah, 6 or 7 goals, great. But no, I wouldn't be setting 6 or 7 goals, but like focus maybe on like 1 or 2 at a time, because like if you try to do everything in the one session, you'll end up getting nothing done. But so we want to be teaching that correct form. It's like, here's what we ideally want it to look like, and we get the players at whatever level. Like this could be underage, this could be new adults, this could be seniors, and you'd be like, here's what we want you to do, and you get practicing that just that skill, that low catch. I'll just use that as an example, but you can use it for any drill or any skill at all. So it's like, here's what we want it to look like, and get them to repeat it and repeat it. Not just like, oh yeah, once grand, I know what it's done. We want to build that muscle memory. So we start off by doing that skill in isolation. So say like that low catch down at our knees, or how we approach a ball that's going to be bouncing in front of us, rather than letting it bounce. Here's how we want you to try and catch it, and this is the best way to do that. So after we've done that, we want to say, okay, well, here's how it relates in a game. So here's a drill that we're going to do to help with that. So what a drill is basically, it's a controlled setting. So it's like, okay, you have one objective. The ball is going to be coming here. This is how we want you to approach the ball. Here's how you're going to feel it. We're in complete control of everything that happens. So, we can really assess if they're able to execute that skill or not. Obviously, if they're not, we go back, make the corrections that are needed. It might just be one or two players, or it might be the whole team, might be how it was communicated. But like, as the drill goes on, people get a bit more feel for it. So like, even if that communication is lacking a little bit, the repetition will help that. But by doing it more and more in the drill, what you're basically doing, you're building up that muscle memory. So they get used to this action. So, okay, every time the ball comes here, there's no variance, what's happening. Don't just do it once or twice. Make sure that we do it enough times that it's not just like, oh yeah, they did it 2 or 3 times and yeah, they're grand, they have it. Like I did try with some players. I'd be like, okay, you've done it, now show it to me again and again, make sure it wasn't a fluke, because they can get lucky. So again, we just want to build that muscle memory. Then once we've done that, everyone's comfortable, we've gotten loads of reps in that drill, then we want to kind of make it a modified game, and people always think, okay, well, when we're moving on to games in training, especially in GA, it's like, oh, it means playing a match. No, not at all. But like, you could call it a modified drill or a modified game, but basically we're doing a similar thing to a drill, only with moving parts. So in that drill, I was saying that basically it's completely controlled. We know exactly what's happening. We know where the ball's going to be. We know what's expected of them. But we make it into a bit more of a game. And those moving parts, that's where we see, okay, well, can they rely on the muscle memory? How much do they need to think about it? So like, obviously, in a game scenario of it, so we'll say, okay, our drill was, we were just, approaching, maybe jumping in, catching a ball and throwing one. Maybe like batters hit a low ball at us and the runner was going to go from 1 to 2, but they're going back. So we're just throwing nice and easy to 1 to stop that. Okay, there's our drill. We introduce a runner, then we've got a game. Suddenly, like, there's a lot more panic. We'll see, are they putting out, is it going out of their mind what they were supposed to do with that low catch? That they're now, oh, there's a runner there, and they're focusing on throwing the ball and trying to stop them or get them out, before they've even caught the ball. So that's what I mean by like bringing in a game. And, or as I said, you can call it a modified drill. It's basically the same thing, but like, as a player, you then focus, okay, right, I need to build up my muscle memory so that when shit hits the fan and in a game and, you're under panic, that, it's just second nature. This is what you do. You've done this 1,000 times. It's just second nature. And like, you'll see a few players that play out there. And like, you can tell by the way that they pick up a ball off the ground, that they look so much smoother at it. They've practiced that more times. It's not that someone, is just that bit more composed when they want to be. They've just practiced it. It's more fluid. So yeah, you can do that with all the skills of the game. But I always find that like in rounders, maybe in the GA as a whole, but like definitely in rounders, there's an emphasis on, okay, we'll do a little bit of a skill and then we'll just go in and play a match and hope that it translates. But like, sometimes you need to progress that into that match, because say that we're working on that low catch. I'm like, okay, this is what we really wanted to focus on this week or for the next 2 weeks or whatever. And we go into a game. There's so many varying parts in that catch may not even occur at all. So then, you haven't practiced it in a match scenario, and then they're not able to field it in a game. And if they don't have the repetitions done and they don't have the muscle memory built up on it, it's very hard to expect them to be able to do it in a game scenario where there's something on the line. And really, like, it's a bit more maybe results driven when it comes to, like, your championship match or whatever. But it's just really to keep in mind, okay, we want to work on this thing and we've got steps to go. That it's not just going to be, oh yeah, do this. We'll do a low catch for 5 minutes. We'll do a high catch for 5 minutes. We'll do a bit of batting, and then there we go. There's our training session done. Like, you need to be like, as a player, you need to be coming out of a training session thinking, okay, I've gotten better at this particular thing today, or that like over the last couple of weeks, I am so much better. I have progressed at this particular skill. And, maybe you've noticed that it's something that you're lacking. Maybe your coach has noticed it's something that you're lacking. But it's that you can kind of monitor your progress, and you're not just coming out of training, well, what did you do in training today? God, I'm not sure. Or you come out of training saying, well, sure, we didn't really do a whole lot. Was it really, a good use of, my hour and a half or your hour, or however long people out there train for? You want to be able to come out of training and say, that was a great session. Okay, maybe I actually didn't get much better at that, but I worked on it, and I know I'm going to be getting better, and I know that it's something that I need to work on. So, you can break down, like, there's so many skills around. We all know this. Like, you watch a game being played, like, you could probably break down about 50 of them. But like, we tend to oversimplify it and say, oh, well, sure, if you just play the game, you'll figure it out. And that's true to a certain extent. But like, it's really hard to become really competent at some things, like, if they just don't happen. Like, we'd always say, like, you could be playing in a match, and depending on, the game, in a certain position, you may not see a ball, or, you might see very little of the ball, depending how the two teams match up and whatever. And it's very hard for your skills to progress if that's the case. So like, by playing a game, like in training, you're making it even harder for yourself and for your coaches, for the rest of your team as well. That it's like, okay, well, if we're not getting to practice this lots and lots and lots, it's kind of hard to get better at it. So that's why, so introduce the skill, show them how it's done, make it a drill, all controlled, get our repetitions in, and then modify it so that there's moving parts and it's a bit more into a game scenario. So like, the idea is that, nothing is practiced in a game, but it's executed in the game, so that, you've done your work, you've built up the repetitions. They know exactly, what to expect. They're like, okay, they don't even need to think about it. But anyway, I'll move on that, because I'm sure that, bores the hell out of people. But like, it is just something to keep in mind, say like for anyone that's going to be doing coaching, or as I said, as a player, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to be training this weekend. Here's what I want to work on. And, take that into your training session. If your coach isn't setting your goals for you. The other thing is, like, to get the most out of a training session as a player, talk to your coach. Say, okay, what do I need to work on? Like, if you don't know what you need to work on, and sometimes you don't, or sometimes, maybe there's parents watching this and they'll go, okay, well, my child, I want them to get better, but I don't know a whole lot about the game. They don't really know enough to ask. So I'll ask coach, what do they need to do to get better? What do they need to work on to improve? So, right, now, next thing, I'm going to pull up my board here. So I'm sure some of you have seen this make an appearance when we did some of the game scenarios and whatever. But I'm just going to draw out something really, really simple and show you. So it's just more something I've observed over a couple of matches, and that where like teams are used to playing with certain players in certain positions, and then suddenly they play with somebody else and they go, oh yeah, they're not nearly as good as X. And it's like, God, they barely know how to play the position, or they don't know, they only do this or they only do that. But then when they're questioned on it, it's like, okay, well, were they shown what is expected of them or how to do it? And usually the answer is like, well, no. So like, basically, I'm going to draw out a field, and it'll make sense. 1 second. I probably should have done this in advance. So I have 3 circles drawn here, if you can see them. So the red is first base, blue is second, and black is third, just as an example. So you can set this out with cones and basically divide up your field into sections. So when you're training someone, so say it's first, second, and third, just because of what I've drawn here, you'd be like, okay, if you're playing first base, your job is to work and defend that entire area, and that's where we expect you to be and what we expect you to do. So like the same goes with second, same goes with third. Now usually like people kind of, like especially with less experienced teams, you'll see them as like, okay, well the bases cover a narrower spot and an awful lot is expected of the shortstop to kind of fill in. But that naturally happens a little bit, but like you can make progress so much faster and so much better if you just laid it out and people know, okay, here's roughly the area that I'm going to be used to defending. So I'm just going to draw a green one now, say for the shortstop. So it's like, yes, they're overlapping, but like if you've got two players going for the ball, so long as you've got communication, like if that ball lands anywhere where those like second, third, and shortstop are overlapping, that should be guaranteed out. And to work on it like that with your players so that they know, okay, here's what I do. This is what I'm expected to do. If I'm here, I cover this space. If it goes over there, I'll go on to that in a few minutes. But like basically your primary defensive zones, just like, the little cones, draw them out, try it 5 or 6 cones into an area, be like, okay, for this drill, your job is any ball that goes in there, you're getting that, you're getting that, you're getting that. Brilliant. That's how they learn how to play the game. You see some people and be like, okay, well, to learn how to play the game, the best way is to play a game. And, as I said earlier, like there is a certain truth in that. But if you're playing first base, and this is the area you're expected to defend, and in the game you're playing, they're either not hitting the ball at all, or they're all hitting it and it's all going to the outfield. In that training, we'll call it, where you're playing a game, you're not getting any sense of how to play your position or what's expected of you when it does happen. So like, maybe they get a bit of criticism. Okay, well, you're not playing, geez, that should have been your ball. Say like here, it's like, oh, I thought that was second base, and second base thought that they were here because we've never trained it. So that's where, our drills, the control setting really, really helps with this sort of stuff. Like sometimes, we would have done throw ball in the past. It's basically playing rounders, only you're throwing the ball instead. But like, again, if you set up a smaller field with those cones and those dedicated areas, people will learn the game so much faster rather than waiting on other factors of, say like playing a full match and, is the ball able to be hit? Is it able to be pitched? And, there's so many factors that at that stage, that's about execution. That's not about learning. That's not about refining your skills. So hold on, let me rub this out. And then basically you could take that a step further and it'd be like, okay, well, we're going to have cones. Sorry, I'm just dotting out a few things here. So I'm going to assume that nobody hits over to the right hand side of the field, just for sake of argument here. So we have our cones laid out here, and we can basically say, okay, if the ball is hit into the blues, if the ball goes to the blue square, you throw the ball to first. So that's simulating the ball going to third and shortstop. That's where we're playing. We're playing that out. The ball goes into the red cone area. Okay, you're tagging second and then hitting first, and you get used to that motion. And then for the green, so our outfield, as you can see, I have nothing over by first base. Anything in that green area, we're going to go to second base, or whatever way you want to put that out. But that you get used to, okay, well, if the ball goes here, where are we looking to play? And obviously in a game, it depends, is it a really slow runner? Do you have time to throw them out from the outfield? Possibly. Usually you don't. If a ball bounces in the outfield, you're probably not getting a runner out on 1. So you're probably looking at 2 or wherever, an advanced runner is or whatever it is. But again, by setting this out, getting your players used to, okay, it goes there, this is what I practice, and then in a game it happens, you don't go, oh, well, why did you try to throw it home? We've been practicing it for the last 2 months. If it drops in the outfield, we want you hitting second. Whereas if you don't do that and then you go into the game, you'll see something, oh, why did you do that? And blah, 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 blah. Like, it's like, well, you haven't practiced, you haven't shown them. You can't really expect them to know, what I'm supposed to do if you haven't practiced it. You can't just expect them to be able to execute it, in a match scenario. So, like, anyway, listen, like, is any of this making sense? Do people do it? Like, has anyone ever played a match or a training session where it's been divided out, like? Or maybe I've bored you all into oblivion at this stage. No. Nothing. But look, even if there's people that decide to like watch this back, hopefully, they can take something from it. But like dividing up a field like that and, doing it at that sort of a pace where it's not just playing a match and you've all the other things to worry about, it gets the game sense so much better, because like playing against, it only goes so far. If you don't have repetitions, if you haven't practiced it loads and loads of times, like you can't really expect them to be able to do it at 100% efficiency in a match. Like say, like take batting. Like if anyone follows any sort of like baseball or that, you'll know that like they don't hit the ball very often, and anyone that's like inexperienced in it will look at it and go, oh sure, that's easy, sure, anyone would be able to do it, I'd be able to hit that. None of us would, even us that are playing rounders for ages, like we wouldn't be able to hit it. We haven't practiced it, we're not used to it. But basically, if they get the ball hit, say 20-25% of the time, they're a decent player. Now in rounders that would be very poor, because like look, the ball's coming at us as anywhere between 30 and 60 mile an hour. It's not coming at 90 or 100 mile an hour with a load of movement and everything else. And they're players with gloves. But like for batting, I would probably expect an average player to be getting on base 50% of the time. Anywhere between like 45 and 60% of the time. Like I would say like a really good player is probably getting on base about 65 to 80% of the time. Like obviously better than that is even better, and like that tends to be more kind of opponent driven rather than player driven, if they're getting on base that many times. But like if you don't practice, like you haven't practiced your swing, you haven't practiced against fielders, you haven't practiced your base running, well, you can't really expect your batter to go up and get on base 6 out of 10 times, or like even 5 out of 10 times, which would be, as I said, to me, like kind of just about average. So like, but if they haven't done the work, you can't expect them to do that. So like, if you take that to another skill, you take that to catching or throwing. Like, if somebody makes, like, if they get 10 opportunities to catch a ball and they only catch 5 of them, like that's not average. Like we're expecting, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, depending on the level that you're coaching at or that you're playing at. Like, if they're, an underage team that have, they're only starting off, you're not expecting, 10 out of 10 catches. But like in a game, you would probably be hoping that you're getting anywhere between 6 upwards. But like, if you haven't practiced it, you can't really expect them to be able to catch every single ball that goes to them. And you're not really going to, well, I say you're not going to blame them. Some people will. You'll see them, shouting, screaming at players, oh God, how did they drop that? And then someone says, well, it's their first ever game and they only started playing however long ago. It's like, okay, well, if they haven't put in the work, if you haven't put in the work with them, it's very unfair to be expecting that of them. Mark, as you said previously, you should be touching the ball 100 to 200 times a session. Easy. Like, I mean, you should be touching the ball 100 to 200 times in a couple of minutes, getting a feel for the ball. Again, I've heard of training sessions where people will be like, oh yeah, we'll go and we'll throw a ball like, 10 or 20 times to warm up and then we'll play a match. And then, that's not really training. Like it's kind of the equivalent of kickabout, to be honest. But like, there's a difference in training and practice. So like practice, you're just like, okay, well, we'll just do whatever and sure, whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. Like that's practicing something. Like if you're not practicing at the right intensity, there's issues with that. If you're practicing something bad, that's even worse. You perfect being bad at something. And again, I'm sure we've all seen examples of that. What's the phrase? Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So perfect practice makes perfect. But like you should be getting loads of touches, like really early on. So like even in your warm ups, you should probably have your about 100 or 200 touches on the ball at that stage. And if you haven't, again, like say me as a coach, if somebody has barely touched the ball, I can't really expect them to be able to execute, really difficult modified drills, or if we go into game scenario stuff, it's like, oh, their throw-ins all over the place. Oh well, they haven't warmed up. It's like, well, if they haven't warmed up or they haven't gotten their throwing in before then, it's like, well, you've taken from the whole drill for everybody else. But anyway, I will stop on that rant now. But Mark has made a really good point. Like, you should be trying to maximize the amount of touches on the ball, between catches, throws, hits. Try and get as many as possible, and like have a goal, not just like, oh yeah, I'm standing there and just flinging the ball. It's like, well, am I throwing the ball correctly? Like, I'm never going to actually improve on my throw if I'm not trying to do it right. Like, if I throw the ball the same way that I always have and I just do more of it, it's like, well, is it going to get much better? Like, if I've been throwing the ball this way for 2 or 3 years and it's not great, and I just keep doing the same thing, I don't adjust it, I don't make any adjustments, it's not going to improve. Or if me as a coach, if I'm looking at a player and, Jesus, they're still not able to throw the ball, it's like, well, okay, well, have me or like someone else in my coaching team tried to show them how to do it? And is it that they haven't been shown, or that they're refusing to do it? Two very different scenarios. But so it's just something to think, like, to have those clear goals in mind, that when you go into it, you can then track it. Like, and the other thing I'd say is, for every session, don't try and do everything. Like, if you try and do everything well, like in a training session, you'll probably end up doing nothing well at all, because it takes, like, as mentioned there, about 100 to 200 times a session. Like, if that's just throwing, if you want to work on your throw, it's like, well, if you want to work on it for 100 times or 200 times, like, you're not going to have a whole lot of time for anything else. It's like, okay, well, we can only do 5 minutes on this, because then we need to do 5 minutes on that, and then suddenly, like, the effectiveness of your training goes way down. So, like, maybe you might be better off, okay, well, we're training twice this week. On the first training session, we're going to work on 1 and 2, and the second training session, we're going to work on 3 and 4, rather than trying to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 each night, and then kind of half doing it or a quarter doing each of them, and not getting any real progress on it. But again, just something to keep in mind. Again, like, I'm not going to be, going around auditing every coaching session and making sure that people are actually doing this. This is just my advice on what I've learned. But like, your players, they will respond. Like, and again, I can only pull from my own experience here, but like, I've seen players that, like, they have been made work on certain things, and like, in the space of 12 months, I was actually just having this conversation, I think yesterday or the day before, about a certain player, and I was like, if you looked at them a year ago, you would not think that they could have even been as good as they are this year. But the work that they put in, but like the focused work, it wasn't just showing up for the sake of it. They actually worked on their technique. Like, if they did it wrong, they'd make corrections, and really, really worked on it. But does anyone have any questions on any of this? Sorry, rather than me just rambling on, like, I do want this to be, like, I see, like, we have a few people on, so I was just like, if you do have any questions, like, throw them in, and I'll try and give you a bit of an answer or whatever I can do on it. But hopefully this is, seeming somewhat relatable. I know, like, people can be, all good intentions, and then as soon as it comes to it, we just want to get playing a bit, and then, you kind of get focused on the next goal rather than on the process, and the process kind of falls by the wayside. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, at this time of the year, God, it's too late to fix it. We'll just keep going and try and make do. But sometimes you need to take that longer approach. Like, it might be, like, in an underage setting or whatever, it might be like, okay, well, over the next 3 or 4 years, this is where we want them to be at. or it might be, okay, well, it's going to be harder for this player and that player to work on in, March, April, May, but we'll really reap the rewards of it come August, rather than kind of just trying to change all that in August. When it's like, okay, well, Jesus, we didn't realize it was such a weakness that our second base player isn't able to catch a ball that's, lower than their elbow. And now people are actually targeting the ball, hitting the ball low at them because they can't get it or it's bouncing off them or whatever. But yeah, no questions. So that's, I don't know, a sign of something. Good or bad, I'm not really sure. Don't think this is. I'm still getting used to the whole phone setup with it. But yeah. Anyway, these boards are very handy. I use them for drawing up drills at times as well. So I'm just going to quickly do one here and show you this. This is like my favorite drill ever. So no, it's mirrored. I forgot about it. Anyway, I'll explain it. So basically, the ball starts off at home. It's thrown to the shortstop. We call this a star drill. So it goes from home to shortstop to first to third to second back to home. You can see why we call it a star drill. But look, these are very handy, and rather than, okay, right guys, we're going to go out and this is what's going to happen, sometimes it's very handy just draw it up quickly, huddle round, here's what we're going to do, right, break, go. Do you plan a session around who you're playing next, or just focus on your own skills that need improving? So that kind of goes back to what I was saying about, sometimes you're focusing just on the next thing in front of you. I feel so bad that my answer is always, it depends. Both. So like, definitely at the start of the year, you should be working on, what you need to work on. And I would say 90% of the time, you probably just need to be working on what you are doing. Like, as a team, if you have a game plan and you're able to execute it to like the highest level that you want to, it doesn't matter who you're playing. Like, so like my own teams, like any year that we were playing, and you can call it arrogance or confidence or whatever, but it was just like, if we go out and do what we know we can do and what we want to do, it doesn't matter who we're playing. They're not, like, say, like if I'm stepping up into the box, I was like, oh well, it's such and such. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like if they think they know what I'm going to do, which, say for me, I find very impressive, because most of the time I don't know what to do. I'll just deal with the ball that's coming in. But it's just like, even if you know what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, he's going to hit down by third. Well, I'm going to hit it so hard down by third, it doesn't matter. It's not going to stop me. But it's kind of the same with your training session. Like I would say that, like in like your preseason building up to your games, you want to be focusing on all your skills and just getting it that you've got no weaknesses, or you're minimizing the weaknesses that you do have, and that you're ready to go in and play your game at the start. The only thing I would say about playing on the next team would be like, okay, if they've got pitchers that do, it's like, okay, well, they're a slower pitcher or they're a faster pitcher, or they like pitching on the inside or the outside or stuff like that. Maybe get your players used to, adjusting their reaction time, or the angle of the ball coming in, or sometimes you're against a team that maybe they play like a really close infield and really far outfield. So like, get your players used to that, so they're like, oh well, I'm used to hitting this spot here. It's like, well, this team plays with a player in that spot. Okay, so we need to be ready for that, and we're going to adjust. And like, when you're saying like, who you're playing next, like they're going to be adapting too. So like, there's only so much preparation you can do, because like nobody plays the same from start to finish. Like if we're playing a team and they all like doing this, and they use 4 people in the outfield. They don't play shortstop, which used to happen in the past. Not so much anymore. Although you'll see teams with a really deep shortstop or whatever. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. So just because they usually do that doesn't mean that they're going to do that. Or it might be that after the first inning they're like, Jesus, we're getting killed in the infield. They keep just putting the ball between 2 and 3. Okay, right, put our fourth outfielder into shortstop. So there's only so much you can do, planning for that. Whereas if you've spent all your time focusing on, being able to hit the ball every time, being able to place the ball left and right, then it doesn't matter what they're doing. You have prepared for them by just upping your own skills. Hopefully that makes sense anyway. But I really would just focus on yourself and your own team. There's no teams out there, and especially the way Slithers are, it can't dictate the way you play too much. If you're able to play the way you want to play, doesn't matter how good the other team is, you will still be able to execute your type of game. So hopefully that sheds a little bit of light on how to kind of get more out of your training sessions. Some people have asked, how long should a training session be? Again, it depends what you're working with. I would say ideally no session should be less than about an hour and a half. You want to give sufficient time for warm up, to make sure that you're ready to go and train hard, and that you're not risking injuries and stuff. So like if you're going to take say 20-25 minutes for a warm up, you're still going to have the guts of an hour of a good training session. Maybe you can get doing a bit of a debrief or whatever at the end of it, or even at the start. Say, okay, right guys, in the last game, here's a couple of things that maybe we struggled with. So this is what we're going to work on. Here's what we want it to look like, etc. I know, like, you're probably more tied to how much time you're going to get on the field. Like, are you competing with other teams, with other clubs? Are you sharing facilities? So you have all that. But really, I'd say about an hour and a half. Like an hour used to be like we used to do, like coaching some of the kids. But your warm up times go way down, and I don't know if that's really a good idea. Just like even at underage levels, you see like the amount of injuries and stuff. So maybe we need to spend a bit more time at that and just extend the training session a little bit more, rather than trying to frantically rush through everything in an hour. But it's up to yourselves. Like I've done sessions where there were less than an hour. I've done some that were like 3 hours long. Again, I wouldn't overly recommend that either. Just your risk of injury goes up. Kind of depends how you're training. Like what are you doing? What sort of intensity is it at? But right, guys. Unless there's any more questions, I'm going to leave you at that. So it's just more like just to recap. To be a bit more focused in training sessions. Like set out the skills you're going to work on. Show the correct form of it. Be that in slow motion, in a setting or whatever. Make it relatable, then put it into a drill where it's nice and controlled. You get your reps. Like I know it was mentioned about 100 to 200 times a session. When you're doing a drill, like don't just everyone's done the drill 2 or 3 times. Do it more. And if it's something that really needs to work on, maybe you need to be doing that drill 20 times. Before you go into that, the moving parts one. But yeah, so look, thanks a million for hopping on. Yeah, no problem, guys. You're very, very welcome. Look, I hope the winter leagues and everything are going well for everyone, and everyone's making all their plans for the upcoming season. Maybe I know I mentioned it just in terms of training, but like, if you've got your winter league stuff and you're treating them like challenge matches or training matches, be like, okay, well, we're going to go in and we're going to work on this and not focus as much on the results, just an idea. And that goes for anyone out there. But yeah, look, guys, thanks a million, and we will chat to you soon. And hopefully lots of people are going to the AGM and, they enjoy that. So take care and chat to you all soon. Yeah, no problem, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.